Bring your questions, and again, if you got questions from the get-go, again, the starter topic or the discussion topic today is a name screen, but if you've got some other questions, write them down while I'm kind of reviewing a couple things on the name screen, and we'll get to them. I'm going to try to take 10 to 15 to kind of highlight a few things on the name record. And we'll move on. I, again, was wanting to say that the user forum was originally designed for your newbies, like this young chick here, and I was looking for an old, grizzled, a tired old rooster for the other picture. Couldn't find one, so there's no to invite our seasoned users also to set in on this. So again, you've avoided being tagged as an old rooster, so there you go. Name record, what's in a name? Well, obviously a lot, and so I'm going to kind of get into this and kind of just
Hey Chuck, we're having a little bit of a difficulty hearing you. You're kind of in and out, so. Nothing.
I think your headset went dead.
Oh, go old school and we'll see if that'll work.
Press 3, 4. Now let me try something. Check 1, check 2. Can you hear now? Yeah, that was a yes?
There?
Yep.
Okay. Let me try the headset. Now with the headset, check 1, check 2. Sorry about this, guys.
There you go.
All right. All right. Well, I apparently didn't press the right buttons in GoToMeeting. So you missed my little soliloquy about the chick and the old rooster. So what's in a name? I'm going to go ahead and jump over to live data here. And okay, and we're going to get into this. First of all, a kind of a tips on this is how do you get to the name lookup? And what's the difference between lookup active name and lookup names off the main tab menu? Under module, there are menu items: add new name, lookup active, lookup name. So again, a couple of things to note. You can use, again, the menu, or you can use those shortcut keys, Alt-A or Alt-L if you're a shortcut type of person. So what's the difference between the lookup active on the main launch and the lookup from the main screen? In the lookup active from the main launch, it only shows names that are active, and the idea of active or inactive names is a tool to help users that might have old databases. In other words, they've been around, they've been using ACEware for 15, 20 years, and they have names that are quite old that aren't active anymore. By unchecking the active box, the name still stays in the system, and in order to look up all names, you'd go to look up name on the menu. And again, similar to the behavior of looked up active course, which would only show your active courses, which would be our 2017 ones, or the lookup course from the main screen, and then you have every course from the beginning of time in your system available for you to look at. So the idea of how you get to the lookup name routine, we are there. The other thing I would do on a tip is, again, is to have you remember on your search mode for all of the main search windows, you've got the search fields on a begins with option. For name records, my feeling is that you should normally always have it as begins with. it would give you, I think, a faster search, and number two, it's probably going to match up to what you're looking for better. So if you're looking for Smith, you'll get Smith in the last name as opposed to Adam Smithson and Company, where you'll find the word Smith somewhere hidden in a firm name down below. Again, when would you perhaps not want to use begins with? I think, gosh, this seems familiar. We talked about this, I guess, with the client yesterday. If you had a hyphenated last name and it was Smith-Jones, Joanna Smith-Jones, and you're not sure whether they use their maiden name as the first or the maiden name as the last, or how they've done that, then unchecking this would search for the word Smith anywhere in, or it would search for the name, whether it's at the beginning of the last name field or the middle of it. So the other one, again, is if you're working with firms and you're looking up, a particular company name, and it might be Ohio State or it's spelled the Ohio State, then using unchecking the begins with would let you find the words Ohio State no matter where it appears. So if I'm looking for Texas, I would get Texas Workforce Southwest Texas, North Central Texas. If I wanted to kind of say any firm that has Texas in the title, I would use the uncheck the search fields on the begins with. If I check it, and you'll see, then it only shows me those that begin with. So that's kind of the the one element. Other element is, and of course you'll note right now I have my search mode set where disable first word search is off, and we'll talk about that in a second here. If you're looking up names and you've got a long last name, and here's an example, I guess, if you look down here at Vardaman, Olds-Vardaman, if you were looking for Vardaman and you couldn't find it on begins with, and again, mainly females that this is the condition on, although I guess guys are now doing the shared name as well. Uncheck the search fields and search to see if you could find it in the last name field somewhere else. If you're looking up person and you've got multiple Smiths and you know the Smith you want is Robert, you can type the first couple letters of the last name and then the first letters, okay, Joseph, of the first name. So the idea of for doing searches with long or complicated last names or names like Havlicek, where the spelling is all goofy, CHU, all you need to type is 2 or 3 digits of the last name, spacebar, and then the first couple of initials. Now I'm going to back out of this and go to Edit Preferences, because that's the other thing about the name screen is preferences. And we're going to talk about the search preference, disable first word search. So again, I do not have disable first word search implemented. If you have a large names file and your system is kind of slow, if you turn that on, that'll generally speed up your search. It'll pop up the search screen right away, and then when you start typing SMJO, then it'll start to navigate and show you names that match the letters you're typing. So if you type a couple letters and then hit the enter key, it will do the search. I'm going to go back to the unchecked format. While we're at the name record, and let's get Mr. Havlicek, special needs note. One of the things that I would recommend that you do is to make sure you review your preferences on the name screen as to what fields your program uses. If you really don't have international people, hide the country field. If the county field is not one that you worry about, turn it off. Now it'll still show the county behind the scenes because we'll automatically fill the county, but the idea is disable or turn off data fields that you're not using. So this is an example of a database that's using most every field in the system. Another one over here would be one where we've turned off fields. Title, well, firm is still turned on. County is turned off, country is turned off most of the data over on the demographics field. So again, the point is only make your students wade through data fields that they really kind of need to care about. So otherwise, you don't have to worry about it. Other thing I would encourage you to do is to use the callback feature when it could be useful. The callback feature on the demographic screen is a field called callbacks. And again, the way it works is that you type in a date there and then you say, who's gonna, when's the date we want to do a callback? 0601. I want to call them back tomorrow. Is it tomorrow? When's it? No, not first of next week. Middle of next week, I want to call them back because they're on vacation already, and I want to have, I'm going to have ACE call this person back. So you can use that callback feature. Now, the special button has a couple tools for us related to both callbacks and history. So when you back off of the special reports tool, it'll automatically stamp a date in there that is 10 days in the future, and you can edit if you say, well, no, I don't really need 10, I just need it to be the first. And it'll put in your username, whoever you are that's logged in, as the person to call back. And again, if you want to assign this, I say, I want to have my assistant Rosie make this call, I can put that in the notes, or I can put that as the responsible party. However, if you do that, then it's incumbent upon you to put a note in the comments history what it is that Rosie is supposed to do. Is she supposed to ask about the scholarship application that hasn't been turned in, or the check that's due, or whatever? If you're delegating, you need to delegate instructions as to what's going on. So again, using the callback field I would think is a valuable piece for a lot of different ways, marketing or just customer care follow-up. The one note on that, and now we're going to move over to preferences. If you use the callback date, you've got to go into preferences and make sure callback date field's turned on and report on startup is enabled. Then you can go down here and say, how many days do we want the system to remember people that you have a callback date assignment for? For instance, if you sometimes are out of the office 4, 5, 6 days at a time, you want to make sure this window of the number of days is long enough to make sure that you don't miss a callback that might be assigned to your responsibility. The other thing about the preferences, and now we're talking about preferences, is that there's a lot of things in here that you can do. And the top part is primarily enabling or disabling data fields. And again, if you need to track this information, obviously you'll want to make the check to include it. If you don't, then uncheck it. Just get it out of the user's face. Down at the bottom is more behavior kind of preferences. What do you want the system to do? What do you want to hide or show, or behavior of drop-downs? The one thing I really encourage here is that you always do the warn when entering duplicate email address. That doesn't prohibit you from entering the same email address for two people, i.e. husband, wife, or grandpa and grandma both share the same email. That's fine. It just warns you that there is another person with this email address. Trying to think. So again, looking at this, a couple other areas here that are, I think, kind of unique is the default sort order. and we're going to go to a minute to the name and talk about navigation in the name screen itself. But you can set for the name record a default order in
Chuck, we lost you there again. You're not back yet.
No. Okay, now am I back?
Yep. There you
Goodness
are.
gracious. Well, I'm going to do the crick in the neck, guys. Where did you lose me, Sharon? Could you?
I would talk a little bit about that sort order right there again and just repeat
Right.
that.
The idea that you can set a default sort order on the name screen. Obviously, the normal sort order, last name, first name, probably works for most. The main exception of this would be if you use, if you're a program that does a lot of programming with businesses, then you might want to have this in firm name order. I use a copy of Student Manager as our client tracking, and I have my settings set up to be by university school name, so that that is something that we're able to, that I'm able to look at all the people from College of Charleston, just, you know, next, and I see all of the staff who are with the College of Charleston without having to go look up alphabetically Bronson and then Adamson and Smithson and the different staff that are in the unit. The other thing that I would recommend, so again, the idea here is you set it up to match your program needs, and Manager allows you to do that. The only other thing I would recommend as a big deal is that on your org defaults preferences, unless you really are tracking a live social in that name ID field, turn the format of it to open text. And again, that will help when you're doing combined name critters. So right now, if we're looking at this NMID field is 9 digits, and the idea that if we have 2 Andersons here and I want to combine Phil and Philip, I can just copy, Control-C, or I guess I can right mouse click, copy this value, go over to the next record, paste it in, and it will paste. Well, maybe that will paste. I guess I didn't copy from the previous one. I'm copying an address, an email here, or a phone number. But it would paste that record into that ID into it when you're doing the combined 2 names. Okay, other items on here. We talked about the preferences, navigation. So again, you can temporarily change the sort order right from the sort button, but the idea of having the names, if you're looking for all of the Andrades, you can do right arrow Andreessen, right arrow Andreessen, and go alphabetically through there. But if I wanted to do it by company, then you sort this by firm. Now we have Texas Workforce Commission, another staff member from Workforce, another staff member, lots of people from the Workforce Commission. Now we have TFC tuition, but the point is, again, that gives you a way to kind of organize how you might put those names together. The only other one in there that might be useful would be, well, I'm trying to think, day phone, firm, firm ID, that would be the same as firm. So again, ID number, that's something usually that's an automatic one you're not worrying about. So anyway, we will leave that as it is. Again, the other thing as far as looking up, and again, to remind you that if you're working with a name record and you are editing data on that record, so if I'm going in and going to add PhD to Dr. Marcello here, I don't have to hit save in order to save that record. Remember, whenever you're working with a data screen, names, course, or otherwise, whenever you make a change, any one of the buttons on the screen, navigation button, an action button here, a view button up here, except for undo, abandon, and escape, will save the change. So if I just go right arrow now and go back, it saved that THD value. So again, you don't have to hit save before you do OK or find or the next element that you're looking for. And again, and the big one here is I've edited the one record. I want to find a new name. You just click the find button. You'll get to that record, and the previous change that you had will be saved. So again, everything is saved except when you press undo, abandon, or escape. Trying to think. We're running through this here. I'm going to jump back to the show, and we're going to cover the top 10 elements here. So
before you do that, before you
go
do
ahead.
that,
Questions on that? Sure.
Go back to the callback feature. We have a question about how does the system notify the person you've delegated that task to? You might want to demonstrate that when they find it.
Let me do that, and I'm going to put a couple of callbacks in here for today. Alt F2, and I'm going to put in the comments what I'm going to put in there, what to do. Okay. So if you have a callback, and again, you've assigned it to a staff member, a couple of things need to happen. Number one, remember, that staff member has to have the report on startup turned on. So if you say, that's a great idea, I'm going to do it at my unit, you've got to make sure that the preferences of the staff who are the assignees have the report on startup turned on. All right. So you've got that done. When a person logs on, Mr. Ace logs on that particular day, it will actually pull up a student callback list. And this is the screen that's going to show up. It'll show the date the call is supposed to happen, who's the person supposed to call, that's me, Ace, who am I supposed to call, there's a phone number, and then if you put in a note in the call note or in the history, if you hover over it, if it's a capital M, it means there's data there, or lowercase m means it's empty. But that the staff member would hover over the call note, and your notes to them that would be explicit as what they need to do is going to appear. So that is how the user knows that they've got something that needs to be done. Again, if you've got a group of people using ACEware and you have never used callbacks before, yes, you really need to do a little mini session with them so everybody kind of knows what's popping up and the behavior on this. Now, one of the notes on a couple of the notes on this is that when you're looking at a callback list, if you double-click on the name, it'll open up the full name record so that the user or whoever is working with it gets to see everything there is to see. The other thing is that if the user takes care of what needs to be done, there's a couple of things. They can actually double-click in the call note and be able to put in a note here, I done it. CH, and puts in a date, 05/25. So the user can actually put in a date, and if they're finished with it, answering a Y in the clear command will clear that routine, and it gives me a cleared one callback, and it brought that out, so I don't have to go back. That callback is off my list now. So, all right, Sharon, was there anything else on that?
Perfect. That takes care of some questions.
All right. Back to the slideshow and the top 10 broken firm link, and I'm going to actually need to go back to Manager to show this. This is a little bit obtuse. If you're using Student Manager, if you are using Student Manager, if you have ACEware and you allow students to enter their organization name on ACEware, ACEware does not necessarily link the firm that the student types in in the ACEware form to the firm that when you're doing data entry from Student Manager will automatically link it up to. So we have a tool now as of this earlier this winter under data cleanup called broken firm links. And what this will do, it will attempt to match up names with firms so that if a firm was entered on ACEware, it will give you the list of those that are matched up. It'll match up the names if they spell the firm the same. And again, it's basically a way, if you're using ACEware, if you're asking for firm, this new firm link cleanup is a tool that you ought to run. I don't have any in my demo, so basically when you run it, it would tell you here are names that will be automatically matched. I have none, and there were good firm links that matched them to 31 names, 47 records with an unmatched firm name. How do you want to proceed? So you could say, I want to make a firm for those people. I want to make a firm and use the name address of the person. I want to put the ID as an 88, which is kind of an unassigned firm reference, or just give me a report of those. So again, it gives you several tools to be able to help with that. Back to the show. So broken firm links. Again, those navigation options, left, right arrows, go ahead and use them. Know the shortcut keys. And again, we were showing you a couple of the shortcuts, module names. There's an Alt-A and an Alt-L. However, there's a couple other ones. If you'll press the F1 key, which gives you a variety of shortcuts, there's a couple of things here related to the name. Number one, Alt and the letter O. If you have, I guess I can't move this, it's stuck. If you have a international record and you've got some funky city code and you need to, you're not going to put a zip code to match up, you know, Ojibwe, you know, South Africa. That was a cultural mismatch there. But Alt and the letter O, whoops, I'm going to need to get back to that. And I have to look Alt and 0, not Alt-O. That is a 0, not an O. Alt and the letter 0. And now I can type in, you know, pseudo and South Africa. And at this point, so I can skip the city, skip the state, and basically you can edit those values independently here. Now, when you have, as long as you have the name screen open after you've done that Alt-0, the city and the state remain open for editing. You can still type in a zip code and it will behave like the normal zip code match. Actually, it doesn't. It ignores the zip code lookup. I guess you'd have to blank this for it to work. Yeah, Manhattan, Kansas 66502. But once you close the screen and come back to it again, then we go back to the behavior where you only enter through the zip code. Shortcut keys. The other shortcut key that is useful on the name record, in my opinion, is the Alt F9, which is show payment history for the name. So if I wanted to know, and let me find my record because I know I've got payments here. Oh, come on, AVL, there we go. So that if you're on a name record and you want to see the whole payment history, now of course you know edit registration, pay info will show you payments for a given registration, but if I want to see every registration on file, holding the Alt and the F9 key, will show every payment made by or assigned to Havlicek, the course that it was made for, who the payer was, and the dollar amount of that payment. So that's the Alt F9 key view. Trying to think of F keys, Cheryl or Sharon, that on the name record. I think those are the main ones. Favorite reports, find firm. Yeah, I think the rest are shortcuts on there. So number 7, use that special button. Again, with the name record, the special button we mentioned does callback. The other thing it will do is if you want to write a note about that student, contact history, it'll automatically put in today's date, your username, and now you can say what I did with Chuck today, or what happened. It's kind of like your grade schooler, your preschooler, and you send home the report. You can write in a note about deportment for the day. Use the callbacks feature. We talked about that again. PRN as needed. Use the UDF display, and this is one that on the name record you've got 2 lines at the bottom of the name record that you can actually set up to display data that is inside either a user-defined field, inside a credential, or on the second demographic screen. And the whole idea behind that is that if there is data in the student's license number, I can look at it from the main screen without having to go to additional info and look at the license number. Do smart lookups. We talked about the partial name lookup, using the disable first word search if your speed is slow. Manage your interest codes. Really didn't have much chance to talk about interest codes, but again, these are valuable. Well, they're valuable. They can be most helpful to you. Again, primary focus is on tracking interest for marketing purposes, but they also can be used to track data elements. If it involves data that would be a code or a date, and again, you can right mouse click and edit the date there. Those are just pretty handy features to have. Use the source code field. Again, the idea of the source code here is, how did Mr. Havlicek first learn about ACEware University? And that is your marketing tracking code. And I would highly recommend, unless you have unlimited marketing budgets, you use that. And then finally, the number one is that whole preferences area. You know, the setup of the screen, how you have managers set up to show the fields, you know, how you want the behavior put in there is critical. And so that would be a major issue, and it kind of follows up last month, Sharon, we talked about preferences. So, well, that was a bit more than 15. Any questions on the name, and then we'll segue into what other topics you want to cover today. So,
I'm not seeing questions. I'm seeing some comments that folks are using those source codes for their marketing campaigns, and I'm saying,
cool,
applause.
Good. Well, and of course, remember, if you're doing that source code tracking for the name record, probably one of the best reports to do that is out of reporting, statistics, names, demographic summary. You can
Chuck, we're losing you again. We're going to have to, yep. Nope, not quite. Not yet. Not quite. It's still a little muddled.
Odd. Now.
Not quite. No. Still muddled.
Well, hang on.
There you go. There you go. Oops. Nope. Lost you. No, nothing there. Nothing. Nothing.
Well, I can hear you fine.
Yep.
Now, I'm back?
You're back.
Oh, this is crazy. All right. I was talking about tracking reports for source code that you can go into statistics and do that source code report. All right. Any other questions that people have they want to bring forward? We kind of run a review of the name stuff. What other items, topics, general issues to get into with that? Trying to think with new users. I know we've got some new, and we've got some folks. We're not going to call you an old chicken or an old rooster, but they have been they've been doing this a little bit of time. So, well, I'm going to, if we don't have any burning issues, let me kind of leave with my normal exhortation. You know, remember that when in doubt, you have the faculty, the cavalry coming to the rescue in the form of Cheryl and the SM Help Guide. So again, we talk about the name record, lots of resources down here in the name record to be able to help you out and get you moving in the process. So folks, I think we've kind of hit the questions. Upcoming webinars, we've got a couple coming up, the new release webinar, which generally will be fairly short. The first of the, actually it's the second Wednesday, I guess, of the month. I'm off next week. And then Smarketing. I love that, Smarketing. Sharon didn't know she created that, but Smarter Marketing with Student Manager. That will be our webinar right before conference. So again, we will look forward to hopefully seeing you at one of those, and then hopefully seeing you at the conference. So Sharon, if there are no others, we can let people get back to work.
Well, I'm not seeing any other questions, so we'll send them back to get to work before the long weekend.
Sounds good. Well, everybody have a great holiday, and be careful with those grills out there. So, all righty. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.